All right, let's just get right into it. If you're a good, conscientious person, you probably know that feeling, that unique kind of exhaustion that comes from being the go-to problem solver for literally everyone in your life. Well, today, we're going to tackle that head-on with a system for radical clarity that's been around for, get this, 2,500 years.
So let me ask you this, straight up. Do you feel like an emotional ATM? You know the deal. People come to you, they make a withdrawal of your energy, your advice, your empathy, and at the end of the day, you're left completely overdrawn, with absolutely nothing left for yourself. If that's hitting a little too close to home, then you are in exactly the right place.
You know, what you're feeling actually has a name. It's called empathy burnout. It's that bone-deep feeling of being completely spent from carrying the emotional weight of your friends, your family, your colleagues. But here's the most important part. This is not a personal weakness. It's not a character flaw.
That's right. I'm going to say it again. This is not a flaw in your character. It's a flaw in your system, or more accurately, the fact that you don't have one. The real problem is poor relational architecture. You haven't actually built the right structure to manage your relationships in a healthy way.
So, what's the core issue with this broken architecture? Well, it all boils down to one simple thing: relational ambiguity. When the roles and the expectations in our connections aren't clear, chaos isn't just possible, it's pretty much inevitable.
Now take a look at this. This slide really lays out the two worlds we can live in. On one side, you've got ambiguity. That's where you get chaos, anxiety, and constant guesswork. You're just running on your emotional willpower, which, as we know, runs out pretty fast. But on the other side, you have systemic clarity, and that brings trust, predictability, and energy. You get to swap all that guesswork for simple, systemic logic. That's how you get your energy back.
So, how do we get that clarity? How do we build that better system? Well, the blueprint we're going to use is called the WuLun system. It's an ancient Confucian framework, but I want you to think of it less like dusty old philosophy and more like a powerful, time-tested technology for organizing human connection.
So the WuLun system breaks down all of our connections into 5 core relationships. Now, we've modernized the labels here, but the principles are timeless. You've got leader and team member, mentor and mentee, partners, peers, which kind of implies a hierarchy like older and younger siblings, and finally, equals, like your true friends. The whole insight here is that each of these requires a completely different operating manual. And so much of our stress comes from using the wrong manual for the wrong relationship.
And that brings us to the whole point of this. The goal here, the big prize, is to move yourself and your relationships out of that messy, unpredictable world of emotional chaos and into the stable, predictable, and frankly, much calmer world of systemic clarity.
Now, this next part is where the real mind shift happens. See, most of us have been taught to set boundaries, but the WuLun system offers something way more powerful, something more proactive, defining our mutual obligations.
This slide just illustrates the difference so perfectly. Boundaries are reactive, right? You only put them up after someone has already crossed a line. But mutual obligation, that's proactive. It defines what both people should do from the very beginning. A boundary is all about my feelings, which can make you feel kind of selfish. An obligation, though, that's about the health of our system, which makes it a shared responsibility. See the difference? It's huge.
And that shift leads to this incredibly powerful new script in your head. When you have to say no or redirect someone, you're not just being defensive or protecting your feelings. No, you are honoring the integrity of the system you've both agreed to. And that little shift in mindset, it removes almost all of the guilt that usually wrecks our attempts to protect our own energy.
Okay, so let's make this super practical. How do you actually start doing this? Well, you can begin today with a really simple relational clarity audit.
It's just a 3-step process. Super simple. First, I want you to pick the one relationship that drains you the most. We all have one. Second, define the true role. I mean, are they really a peer, or have you accidentally started treating them like a mentee you never signed up for? And third, what is the single most important mutual obligation needed for that relationship to actually be healthy?
So once you have that clarity, the key is to communicate the new system. This turns what could be a really emotional confrontation into a simple logistical adjustment. So instead of saying something loaded like, "You're draining all my energy," you can say something like, "Hey, to be more effective for both of us, let's shift to a system of focused weekly discussions instead of just checking in every day." See? You're just calmly explaining the new, non-emotional rules of the game.
So what's the payoff for doing all this? Well, a few things happen. First, you conserve a massive amount of mental energy because you're not guessing anymore. Second, you actually build more trust because people know exactly where they stand with you, and that's a gift. And finally, you protect your own character from that slow burn erosion that comes from constant emotional drain.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. We often think that being endlessly available and accommodating is what it means to be kind. But what if that's just wrong? What if providing clear, predictable, reliable structure in your relationships, what if that is the ultimate form of kindness? Not just to yourself, but to everyone you interact with. Just something to think about.
Like and subscribe for timeless wisdom.